Hey guys, it's Rachel Youngson here from useplr.com and wholefoodplr.com. I am talking today about turning your PLR articles into a podcast. So essentially, there's a few ways that you can go about this. If you have a guest on your podcast, you can pull questions from your PLR articles, or if you are just doing your podcast solo, you can pull tips and tricks and things like that to give you some ideas of topics for your podcast. So, for our example, we are using an article from our new free pack over at Whole Food PLR, and it's called Whole Matters. And this article is all about making whole food a family affair. So it talks about struggles that you might face if you're eating whole and your family is not, and it talks about how to get your family on board, and it talks about strategies if your family is not on board, what you can do for them or for yourself. So essentially, I would go through this article and I would think, okay, well, this is my podcast um, topic. My podcast topic is on whole food and families. So what can I pull from this article that kind of falls in line with that topic? Or what can I pull from this article that I can then change to fall in line with the topic of my podcast? So looking through this article, I'll skim through it and I'll think of everything. Let's say my podcast is all about getting the family on board with whole foods. So I will look at everything that talks about specifically a family that is not on board and I'm trying to get them on board. Here we go. Here's something I can tell my readers or my listeners that it takes 30 days to create a habit. So then I can throw this into my podcast notes as something like, if you get discouraged, if all else fails, just remember it takes 30 days to create a habit. And then I'm looking at this section here that says, what do you do basically if your family isn't on board with your whole foods journey? So I can throw that in the podcast as well, and I can say, you might be really concerned about your family not eating whole when you're eating whole and what you can do to get around that. And then down here, we can basically break these up into bullet points or tips, and we can just rattle them off during the podcast and add a little bit of length to them. So if you think your family is receptive, try to sit down and talk to them about it. Let them know what they can expect. So I'll highlight that, and then I'll say, okay, well, how can I spin this, or what else can I say about this? Well, do I have a personal experience with this? Do I have friends, or do I have other people who read my blog or in my circle who have gone through this? Have I read something interesting online about about people who eat different ways? And what kind of things can I tell them to expect? Can I tell them to expect to feel hungry the first few days? Can I tell them to expect detox symptoms if my whole plan is very stringent? Can what can I help them with? And then of course the flip side of that is, what are some, well, also you want to let them know some tips. So this tip is, if you're the cook in your family, then you only cook your whole foods and you make enough for your family, and you let them know that if they want to eat non-whole foods, that's their prerogative, but you are not going to fix it. You are not obligated to fix it. Because everybody, when they come home from work and school and everybody's exhausted at the end of the day, your chances are really good that they're just going to start at some point taking whatever's in front of them instead of going off and making their own meal. But on the flip side of everything is, how do you handle it if your family is still resistant? What do you do? And so in this article, it talks about, if your family is resistant, just respect their feelings and try to model through example. So in your podcast, you can go and lengthen this a little bit and just let them know what you would do. You know, would you make food that's healthy versions of food that you know that your family likes. For instance, if you have a chicken nugget lover, would you make a whole food meat eaters version of chicken nuggets, paleo version of chicken nuggets, and give that to serve that one night? You know, how would you go about it? So once you have everything, you will of course put it into some notes or a script form, or however you want to do it. If you've never done a podcast before, we have some trainings for you. They're below the blog post. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Again, this is Rachel Youngson from usepLR.com and wholefoodplr.com. Have a great day.